Hey guys, so for those who may have not seen or having heard that obviously New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is in support of abolishing ICE. I'm gonna react to that very soon. I also agree to that. I think ICE should be abolished. ICE agents have been behaving like Nazis, similar to Gestapo, brown shirts type of Nazis from the 1930s, 1940s Germany. So yeah, it's not a radical mentality to want to abolish ICE. There are ways to enforce immigration laws without removing due process rights for immigrants and treating immigrants like their property, like they're not actual human beings. You shouldn't be arresting some child in the middle of the street because they look Hispanic or just not white enough. And that's okay to force a toddler to represent themselves in front of an immigration judge. That should be insane what I'm stating, but that has literally been happening multiple times, especially during Trump's second term, right when he started in 2025. So what I'm saying is not even a lie, unfortunately. It's not even an exaggeration. Yes, dollars have been forced for your kids being forced to represent themselves in front of an immigration judge, and they're being detained and arrested by ICE agents, little kids. If you think that's okay and you think that's enough due process rights, that's how you should be doing things with immigrants, regardless of the age, gender, sexual orientation, etc. You have issues, and you are a white supremacist. You are literally a Nazi. Whether you want to believe or not, you are exactly how you behave and think.
Mayor Mamdani says that he supports abolishing ICE. During an appearance on the talk show The View, the mayor responded to a
It's
question
just funny how they act like as if that's radical when it's not.
about whether the agency has a legitimate law enforcement role. I am in.
And the thing is, the NC doesn't, ICE doesn't, because the way they do things and the way they've been told to do things is really horrific. People would not have an issue with ICE agents if they just did the thing by law. Why they targeting U.S. citizens constantly? They're killing U.S. citizens too. It's not just undocumented immigrants or immigrants who are legally allowed to stay here that have legal status, like people with green cards, work visas, etc. They've been literally killing U.S. citizens. Randy Good is a good example of that, and not the only one. It just happened because maybe because she was a white woman, it became big in the news. But it also happened to black people. Black people who were U.S. citizens were killed by ICE agents. That's not a new thing. It just so happened that it's happened so many times, and now just for being white, it's not enough to avoid it. I think people are getting more nervous and just pushing the limits. And again, that could be avoided. Why the fuck are they dealing with U.S. citizens? Why are they even touching them? Why are they even questioning a U.S. citizen? Why don't they just have judicial warrants and do things the legal way and treat people properly? Don't spray the shit out of people. It's not just ICE agents, right? It makes it seem like, oh, this is just ICE. It's in general federal law enforcement officers are abusing the shit out of their powers, especially now with Trump in power. They're overdoing it. They're all behaving like Nazis. Whether it's FBI, federal agents, whether it's CIA agents or ICE agents, they're very various types of law enforcement. Like Social Security Administration have their own law enforcement officers. They're all types, but they're all overdoing. They're all at the federal level in particular, really pushing the limits. Actually, they already went beyond the limits of the authority because they do not have real immunity. They're not immune to state charges, and that's the reality. And it's really risky situation, very scary to go out there and people questioning and asking for papers, even though that's not allowed in the U.S. Constitution. Regardless what Christine Nolan has stated, she basically said that, paraphrasing, that if you're a U.S. citizen, you should be carrying your papers. That's not what the U.S. Constitution says. You do not have to do that. That's Nazi Germany, Nazi Japan type of bullshit. Keep that in mind.
Support of abolishing ICE, and I'll tell you why. Because what we see is an entity that has no interest in fulfilling its stated reason to exist. We're seeing a government agency that is supposed to be enforcing some kind of immigration law, but instead what it's doing is terrorizing people, no matter their immigration status, no matter the fact.
Yeah, that's logical. I don't think that's really hard to understand. They are not really following the law properly. They're doing what Trump told them to do, plus more. going being as violent and aggressive they legally think they can get away with shooting people and killing them. And that's not what ICE is supposed to be doing. Regardless of the person's immigration status, regardless of their ethnicity, their race, the accent, etc. That's not your job as an ICE agent. And the very fact that U.S. Supreme Court allows them to racially profile people because of their appearance is literally against equal opportunity, aka EEO protected categories. If you live in a blue state like New York, New Jersey, Washington, you might have more expanded EEO protected categories. In my state, I do, and it's very obvious that these people are completely discriminating multiple individuals' rights. They're violating civil rights of multiple people, and regardless of what you think of undocumented immigrants or green card holders, even if you an undocumented immigrant, you have the precise rights. That's not specifically just U.S. citizens or green card holders. Despite what some right wingers will tell you, you might have some mega people think they don't. They do. It's literally written in the U.S. Constitution. You can only change it if you amend the U.S. Constitution. So you make a new amendment to change that, even a U.S. Supreme Court decision. And remember, U.S. Supreme Court justices are supposed to interpret the U.S. Constitution as is, not the way they feel like it, which is what's been happening for the last basically decade plus. But regardless of what U.S. Supreme Court decision are made, it can still be changed later when that different decision legislation can potentially change it. But the Constitution itself, if you really want to make an actual official change and make it the law of the land, officially speaking, you need to make an amendment or change to the Constitution, new amendment. That's what you're supposed to really do, the proper way of doing things, which we have not been seeing since Trump. We did not see that really in Trump's first term, and Trump's second term is just surge of just committing violation of the U.S. Constitution on a daily basis, and it's really a problem, people. If that does not, push you to vote against Republicans during this year's midterm elections, nothing will. If you're still voting for Republicans into Congress, into your state legislation, into governor positions, mayors, city council members, you guys are not learning. You guys did not learn a single lesson. You're not listening to Mondani. You're not listening to Bernie. You're not listening to AC. You're not listening to regular people like such as myself. And I am a Democrat socialist. I'm a Democrat socialist, just like Mondani, and it's a problem, people. Like that's unfortunately very sad. And I know there's gonna be tons of people who are still gonna vote Republican and say, "Oh, it's not Trump, so I can vote for a Republican now." All Republicans, I'm not saying Democrats, corporate Democrats are not like this, but Republicans are so bad. They're so fucking bad that they're supporting the shit out of Trump, and they make corporate Democrats look like decent politicians, even though those corporate Democrats are just live Republicans, really. They're status quo Democrats. They don't do much except for help the wealthy. They just don't like the extreme of everything being full on fascism because they make it very hard for them to keep doing things they do to line their pockets without looking bad at the same time. Republicans just don't give a shit. And none of them, not a single Republican, really is a good person. It's very sad. This is not Abraham Lincoln type of party anymore. It hasn't been in pretty much at least 7, 8 or so decades. It hasn't really been what the Republican Party was when Abraham Lincoln was president for a long time. So just gonna be ranting about these things because people need to wake up and start taking not just general elections seriously, but especially the primary election seriously. So many people depending on the city you live in, has so many good options, or at least better options, more specifically. During the primary election, people don't do research. They don't check to see who is this politician, how they vote, who did they assist during maybe a political campaign. Did they assist someone like Trump? Did they assist Bernie Sanders instead of Mandani? People don't pay attention to those things. They don't research. And with AI now, ChatGPT, Gemini, I don't care what AI tool you're using, you could research these things very easily. You can let the AI tool do the deep research for you, so you don't have. If you're too lazy to do yourself, AI can do a pretty decent job. You can check the sources of it. It's not that hard, and you can figure things out quickly. Especially when it comes to people running for federal government, it's much easier to dig out information out of them to find out who the hell they are. It's much easier for me to figure out who the individual running for Congress is, like their political views, than someone running for local city council or mayor in a smaller town. Those are a lot hard to figure out information. I get it, but for Congress, for the presidency, and including for state governors, state legislatures, much easier to be able to find information on them. But people don't do it. And then the bitch and why when it comes to the general election, why do I have this dinosaur running for office? Why do I have this corporate Democrat again? Why do I have this extreme Republican again? What is the light Republican? What is the Mitch Romney? Even though Mitch Romney is not a good person, but still, people would say things like that. I like you guys don't vote seriously in the primary election. It's a fact. And then you bitch and whine, and once it comes to the general election, and then you're like, okay, I'm not gonna vote now because it's shit. Oh, I'm just gonna vote Republicans. I have rights to Republicans. I don't care who ends up being in the general election. I'm gonna vote for them regardless because they're part of my party, which is a horrible mentality to have, to vote someone purely just because I know they have a D or R next to the names. That's not a good way to vote. So I think people should vote strategically, not emotionally.
Facts of the law, no matter the facts of the case. We did reach out to the Department of Homeland Security about Mamdani's comments, but have not heard back. A new CBS News poll did find 52% of people surveyed think ICE is making communities less safe.
Well, yeah, they're targeting specifically communities that are known to be either mainly Brazilian, Hispanic, African, Middle Eastern, Indian, things like that. So it's very obvious. They also been targeting heavily indigenous Americans. For people who may not know or people who are under a rock, yes, they've been targeting indigenous Americans. So imagine being indigenous American. You have indigenous territories in the U.S., right? And you have ICE trying to deport you. Try to detain, arrest, and deport you to some other country when you are indigenous. You are more American than the person questioning your citizenship or immigration status. Uh, to me, that is insane. And this is why I think people also should vote seriously because then you get people like Trump energizing these already Nazi like people to really go full throttle and to go after indigenous Americans. You cannot be more American than someone who's fucking indigenous. Like, that should be common sense, right? You're going after Mexicans who are fucking indigenous to North America, not just Mexico. Remember, multiple areas of US, the US states, a lot of them were owned by Mexico at one point. And Mexicans have been going through here multiple times. They're indigenous too. People forget that. Part of the some US states were owned by some European countries like France, right? So this is just, nothing in the US is so American once it comes to, once we talk about the creation of the United States. A lot of it is either really truly indigenous or African, or some of it is European because white colonizers, or very obviously central or northern indigenous like Mexicans specifically, like Mayans, etc., who were already here. They are the indigenous people here. People think just Cherokee or whatever, it's just that one indigenous appearance. Look, there are hundreds to, I think, what, over 1,000 tribes. There are hundreds and hundreds to 1,000 plus tribes in North America. And people are very ignorant and thinking that you own it or you're more American because you're white and your parents were here since the 1800s, 1850s, 1900s. That's not really the reality of things. You still come from a background of immigrants. And the very fact that people like Trump, who straight up isn't anchor babies, is a problem. And he has anchor babies himself. He married an immigrant woman, have kids here. Again, that's all anchor baby situation. And you have people who support Trump. He's not your person. Stop thinking that Trump likes you. You're nothing but a tool that he's gonna use to the extreme until you basically are begging him for crumbs that he may or may not give to you, and he'll just let you die anyway because he doesn't give a fuck about you. Stop voting for people who hate you. Just because you're also racist because you're being thought to be a racist does not mean that you're gonna be fine dandy with Trump. Does not give a shit about you. All right, you own that farm. Doesn't care. He thinks you're a peasant at best. Nothing more than that. A tool to use to oppress other people so he can keep putting more money in his pocket What, even though that's destroying the US and impacting other countries in a very negative way. It's not that hard to figure out, people. You don't need more than even a sixth, seventh grade education to comprehend these things, okay? You don't need to go even all the way to high school to really understand it. Of course, it will be better. You will be more intelligent if you even went to high school and got a diploma and actually took it seriously, your history classes, etc. If you go to college to expand your knowledge even more, because more education is always a good thing. But you don't need to have extreme level education. Like you don't have to go to college. Even just having sixth, seventh, eighth grade level education can give you an idea what the fuck happened. You should have an idea what happened in the Civil War, what happened, how U.S. got the independence, what are colonies, what did the colonizers do, etc. It should be something you should have some level of understanding. Slavery, xenophobia, you should have some level of understanding of that. But in general, people who don't have much education tend to be less knowledgeable about a lot of things. They didn't pay attention class in a lot of cases. And they're easier to mold and convince to follow right-wing policies and mentalities. There's a bunch of statistics on this. There's science data behind this that people who are conservative tend to be less educated about a lot of things, and they're more wishy-washy about social norms and social views and how to treat immigrants and people of color in general, and they're much more likely to fall for right-wing conspiracies and policies and have no issue with Nazis. And they really like to believe that they are the ones that are not going to be targeted, even though I've seen a bunch of poor whites being completely screwed over by Trump and other Republicans. It's not just Trump; it's also a Republican governor, your Republican mayor, your Republican city council member, your Republican-controlled state legislature. Right? You can look at Tennessee and other states. Why do you think you're struggling so much in those states? Why you think so? It's not that hard to figure out, people. Let me know in the comment section what you think of Zohran Mamdani's comment about abolishing ICE, which I agree with. I think ICE should be abolished. But if you disagree with Mamdani and I, Mamdani and me, if you think that we're wrong, explain why. I can debate a bit and see if it's a legitimate question debate or if it's just right wing talking points, like fascism, and you're just a fascist, which I don't argue with fascists. If you like this video, like and subscribe, watch this on TikTok, follow us on TikTok, and support us on Patreon. Have a good day.